We are going to talk about a movie.
This is gonna be a disaster.
It was one of the best movies of the year.
It's gonna go so well. Probably one of the last movies I would ever want to see in a theater. What is going on, everybody? Taylor here.
And Jacob.
And we are about to talk about a pretty brutally awesome movie, if I may say so. We got to see John Wick 3, Chapter 3, Parabellum, to be exact.
Yes.
A couple of days ago. And there is a lot to talk about with this movie.
There is a lot to talk about.
And before we start talking, this is going to be very spoilery. Just because it's kind of difficult not to.
It's one of those movies where, especially if, like, the way that it's structured, you kind of need, like, if you want to talk about it, you need to talk about spoilers.
Yeah, so just be aware that it is going to get into spoiler territory just because of the way the movie is structured. But I would like to start out by saying this is one of the first movies I have seen in, I can't even remember how long, where I sat in the theater and was audibly, like, reacting just because it pulls that out of me.
Yeah. Yes, it
within
does.
the first 10 minutes.
Yeah. I thought I was sitting there just completely in awe of what I was seeing. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was a really fun, entertaining, great action film that did a lot more than a standardized action film. It was very well shot. The story was gripping and engaging. I had a really great time with this one.
I did too. I wasn't really sure what to expect going into this movie. I loved the first John Wick movie. I really, really enjoyed the second one. And I was really hoping that this third chapter wouldn't let you down. Because a lot of times with franchises, I guess might be the best way to say that, there's a point where a lot of them go downhill after so many movies. And this one did not disappoint me. This one was beautifully crafted, in my opinion. The cinematography was beautiful. It was stunning in this movie, especially the way it was used with also being able to fully see the action shots. Like the choreography, even when it was dark, you could see it. They pretty much did single shot for most of it, where you were able to watch it. They didn't shy away from any of the gruesome violence. You got to be up close and personal with pretty much all of it.
And I feel like this is definitely the most violent.
By far.
This is easily the most violent one of the franchise so far. But I love that there is a reason for that. Is because he is now excommunicado. He is him against the world, and
it is the world in this movie.
And I love, and something I love about this franchise the most is the world that they build. And you do feel that the world is massive in this one, and when there's a line in there saying, I think the odds are about even, and you do, they find a way through this film. They actually do manage to, kneecap's not the right word, but it's all that's coming to mind. They do manage to find a way to kneecap John Wick and not make him this is the guy who killed three men with a pencil. He's not the Baba Yaga in this film. He is it's him going up and just trying to survive to get back to being the Baba Yaga.
Yeah, which was really interesting to watch. It was a good way to give us this character again, but from a different perspective, because before, even though he was trying to retire and everything, he was still at that level of, this is the boogeyman, this is the guy that is gonna go out and do what needs to be done, even if he really doesn't want to do it.
Yes.
But this movie is literally right after the second movie where he's, what the heck am I supposed to do? Where am I supposed to go? Because this entire community that was once open to me, where I had the resources and I had the safe houses and I had access to all this stuff, he's like, 30 minutes away from not having anymore when the movie starts. And I think that after watching the second one, because we watched it recently, watching the second one always makes me think, and especially this time, that I love the world that they've built, which you touched on earlier. I think that they've built such an interesting world for us to live in, that they have so much to explore, where making this movie global, where we get to see different parts of this community regarding the high table and those kind of things, it really gives the franchise even more room, if they do go forward with another movie, to explore even more of it. And that is such a fascinating part of this, is the world building that they've really put into it.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed a lot. Like, I could literally sit there and watch a 2-hour movie just about the world building, where Easy. We can live in this world. Like, they've done it so naturally and so just clever in the way that they've set everything up, that to me it never feels forced, when there's moments in here that in another film probably would, but here, because they've done the setup in other films and they've actually set up these moments, they don't feel as forced as, say, something like a generic action film.
And I would agree, and I think that because they've been able to do it so cleverly in all of the films, in terms of setting up the world as they're telling the story, they're not taking these weird breaks to try and set up the world. You're stumbling into it and you're discovering it as John Wick is getting back into it from having been gone and trying to get out. But now we're discovering the world as he's falling back into it very reluctantly. And I think that's such a strength about the series so far, is we have that world that's very interesting, that's been really well built up in a way that isn't distracting. Like you said, it feels very natural. It feels similar in a lot of the ways to the world that we understand, that we live in, but then it has all of its unique quirks and its own little personality, because of the high table and because of all these organizations and this community that just thrives on its own.
Yeah, it's definitely, like, we've just been gushing about the John Wick series more so this film. So,
I know, but I feel like it's important to talk about that when talking about this movie. Yeah.
Again, I love the setup in this, and I do really love the world building and adding more to this world. So we get to see a bit of John's background. And I like that they didn't do the full-blown origin story. They just kind of teased it out a bit more. As I said, I'm glad this wasn't the finale.
Yeah.
So, again, we're going full spoilers. So, just fair warning is again. I'm really glad this wasn't the hard stop. Goodbye. Thank you very much, guys.
Where it ends and you're like, ah.
Yeah, like they have absolutely set up for a fourth film. They are definitely going to go again and do it again, because I got about halfway through this film and I went, there is a lot that they still have to do if this is the final one. Now, by all reports, this was going to be the final one until about January. They decided, no, we're not going to make this the final one. So
because the pretty much last scene in the movie wasn't in any of the test screenings, as far as we've been told.
Yeah, so I'm very curious to see where they go forward in the future with this franchise.
Yeah.
But overall, I really loved the way that they made this. They managed to turn the fight against the high table. They focused on him being excommunicado.
Right.
And I like that there wasn't, that halfway through the film it didn't become let's go against the high table movie.
Right.
It slowly did, and then they kind of pulled back on that, and I liked that that's what the final fight was the high table, but it wasn't, no, that's not everyone in the high table. Right, it was just I'm still surviving.
It was basically them trying to open the door to even get to the high table at that point, which I appreciated a lot, because they've built up in the first two films, and this one, but the first two definitely, of the high table is basically the law of the land.
Yeah.
The high table makes sure the rules aren't broken, will sure as heck come after you, as we've seen, if you break the rules. They're very serious about this. They're very powerful. They have a lot of reach. And to me, it would have been a huge disservice to the storyline overall if at the end of the movie, they would have had access to pretty much the entire
yeah,
high table.
and they kind of just went, okay, that's it, we're done. Like,
and
yeah.
I personally don't believe, even in this world, that you can do that in one movie. You have to introduce that idea, which they did here with Chapter 3, of trying to get to that point, figuring out what that looks like, while also having John Wick just trying to survive a whole movie, essentially. But they introduced it in a way where if they do give us a Chapter 4, which I'm thinking at this point is very, very likely, then you have that intro now of what little bits of the high table looked like, and what that kind of could look like as you paint a bigger picture of it.
Exactly, and that's something I thoroughly enjoyed about this film. What were some of the bits that you absolutely loved about this film?
Oh my gosh, okay, so I absolutely loved first of all, the action sequences are really stand out in this movie, and I know that for John Wick movies that's usually true, but this one just took it to another level with the choreography. And one of my favorite sequences from the movie was, we see a bit of this in the trailers, but it's the famous knife fight, where it's such a long sequence, but it doesn't feel like it.
No, it never does. It never gets old, and
it's very creative in what it does with the choreography. There's all kinds of weapons being thrown around. There's cases being smashed to find new weapons. There's knives being pulled out of people's heads to be thrown into other people.
And that's something I did really enjoy about this one, is that we're starting to see John... We're seeing the creative John.
Right.
We're not seeing the... Oh, okay, I've had this planned within an inch of its life.
Yeah.
This is I'm on the run and I just got to use what I can. And I really love seeing that.
Oh, I did too. And I think they did it so well because it was so important for them to be able to transition John in that way. Because you're right, has had those situations where it's planned within that second.
Yeah.
Where every second is planned out. And he had all the access to all the weapons from, at his disposal. Whereas this movie, it's, fuck, like, what's around me?
Yeah,
what can I use?
What do I have? What can I use? And so, like, that was... The knife scene was... the knife fight at the beginning of the film is incredible.
It's a great introduction into what you're about to get from this movie.
It is violent as hell.
There were so many moments where I was like, I really, really want to keep watching this because it's amazing, but my God.
But to me, the scene, or the sequence, I guess, that I adored more than anything was in the Hall of Mirrors. Or not Hall of Mirrors, that's in the second one. The glass building at the end of the film. And that was gorgeous. That was straight up gorgeous. It was really, really well shot. Hall of Mirrors, I think, is still the peak of where this series got. From the second one. I think the way they did Hall of Mirrors, I think, was just mind-blowing insane.
I think that this sequence in this movie was beautifully shot. It was really well handled. The choreography was great. It was really exciting to watch. And I think that for it not quite being the Hall of Mirrors, like, it was mostly glass.
Yeah.
But I liked the way they handled it, the way they played with light. I thought it was a really, really good sequence. Another one of my favorites that really stood out to me, because I'm really a fan of how light and color is used in cinematography, is when they're in the Continental and everything goes green.
Yes.
And they were able to use that lighting so beautifully. There's so many shots where, as I mentioned at the beginning, it's dark, but not in a way where you can't see what's going on, not in a way where it's not lit creatively and beautifully, because they used that green light so very well in a way where it was still dark and eerie, but it was stunning in the way that it was used.
Definitely.
I thought that the whole Continental sequence at the end was really great, because it was basically, the two of them and then some random Continental guys versus the world. And it was grounded in a way that I really appreciated, because you see them going back to the vault to have to reload and regain themselves.
I thought that was very clever. The way that they did that, I thought was very clever. I liked how we got to see John not use his, standard headshot and it work. He was like, I've actually got to do this, and he trying very hard to get back into actually being able to. I really enjoyed that. what something this series is able to do is find humor in these really serious and dark action scenes, and I think this film pulled it off quite a bit.
I think so too. There's one sequence I would like you to talk about because you've talked to me about it a little bit, and I thought your take on it was very interesting. The sequence with the dogs. What did you tell me?
Okay. So the sequence with the dogs, to me, I thought that they had the right idea in the way they shot it.
Yeah.
I just think it would have been so much better if you shot it as a horror film. Like, you straight up shot that whole sequence from the perspective of the henchmen and those walking through. And that's where you got to see the Baba Yaga moment.
Where you have no idea where John or Halle Berry are. And you don't know where they're coming from.
Oh, that... because when I was watching it, I was just thinking that this would have been cool if you didn't see where the dogs were, because
they just came at you.
Or the fact that you couldn't see that there are two. Yeah. Like, I would have loved that in that moment. Like, to me, that whole sequence worked out really well. I enjoyed the hell out of it. It was brutal. The dogs.
The dogs are amazing.
The dogs make that scene.
It's so good. Well, and I also really appreciated about that scene a lot was the fact that, and it happens a lot in the whole movie, is you see really inopportune moments where they realize they have to reload.
Yeah.
And like, just, it's those little things where I feel like it's handled so well in this series where you believe it. You're
but
like,
it's
oh,
realism.
this is well, that's what I'm saying. It's crazy out of this world choreography, these crazy fights that you wouldn't really ever see. But then those little moments of realism where it's like, ah, shit, do I have more bullets? I don't even know if I have more bullets.
Yeah, and I really did enjoy that sequence. Basically, look, one of my favorite additions to this series, though, is Zero. The new cat by Mark, I will never be able to pronounce his last name. But he was incredible in this film. I love the twist on he's a fanboy.
Yeah,
I loved that.
Yeah, that was so great.
While watching that, and then he's the dark and serious guy, and then when they're in the Continental together, and he's a fanboy, and that just made it was perfect.
Great. Well, that and it's great because he clearly has based his want to be great based on John's skills. Like, he's very much trying to be John Wick, and he jokes about it. He's like, we're the same.
Yeah.
No, we're not. We are, though.
Yeah.
No.
I love that relationship. I mean, one thing I was very curious to see if that was common in one of the original drafts, and they just couldn't get him back, or
Maybe.
for whatever
but
reason.
I really did like the way that it went in this movie. I thought he was so good. And it was really a great role, and I think that by them giving him that comedic edge, it was really refreshing.
Yes.
Because it wasn't just a straight-up villain, I guess you could say, or a straight-up antagonist, where it's just, I've been called in to kill you, and that's my job, and X, Y, Z.
They managed to find that, give him that little bit of personality that made him at least stand out, and so that we can remember. Like, the Adjudicator, she was kind of forgettable, I thought. I think that was... I appreciated the way that she was in this film, because I feel like that was her point. Yeah. She was supposed to be kind of the faceless entity that's just there to kind of be under the radar as much as possible, and then just dole out whatever justice the High Table is making her, give out. I'm glad she wasn't overly, like... too much of a presence, because there was so much presence from so many other characters. I do get what you... I understand what you mean, but to me, I think that's the kind of character we needed to balance out everything else that was going on. I'm very, very interested. Let's just, before we wrap this up, because it has been a bit of a long conversation, is there anything you'd like to say in terms of how you felt about the way it ended, or theories that you have regarding the scene where John gets shot and thrown off the roof, and then where he ends up? Okay. For starters, I have not, like, I've already had a few conversations with other people about this. I in no way, shape or form think that Winston betrayed him. There is no way in that moment that Winston actually betrayed him. I will be shocked. And if he did, Ian McShane played that scene wrong then.
Because, I think so too. And there's a couple of reasons. The first reason is it very much felt like John was in on it.
Yes.
With the way that it went down. Just like the whole scene. And you had brought up the point that if he was going to betray him, it would have been a kill shot.
It would have been a headshot. Like, and he was right there to do one. And... Right. Like, he would know that he wears a bulletproof vest. Oh, not bulletproof suit.
Like, yeah. Well, and also, if it was a betrayal, the only way that I can see it being a somewhat betrayal and on purpose is he wants to keep the Continental, right? And he wants to have his whole thing going on still. And maybe... he needed to use John Wick to the point of, okay, I don't really need him anymore, which I've never really seen their relationship that way, but let's just say that's the way it's going. The only way that makes sense to me is I need to rid myself for some reason of John Wick, but I don't want him dead.
Yeah,
like, there would have to be some sort of weird...
To me, it just, I really like it. Like, I do like the idea that they're doing, hey, like, they're setting up that Winston knew what he was like in that moment, and that's part of the plan.
Well, I think so. That's how I saw it too. Yeah. Especially with where he ends up.
Yeah. But I love that it might not be. I really love that, you know, I was able to have a conversation with Pat and we both had different takes on it. And I was like, okay, cool. Alright, we've both got different takes and we'll see what happens. What happens in the fourth one.
But I'm really, really excited about him teaming up with the King.
Yeah.
Because I'm very interested to see what kind of hell they're about to bring on a lot of people. Because,
well, it will be the 6th time that Keanu Reeves and Lawrence Fishburne have worked together.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think they make a hell of a frightening team, especially where Lawrence Fishburne's character ends up by the end of this movie.
Yeah.
He is ready to go to frickin' war, and it seems like John is too at this point. One of the scenes from this movie that will probably stick with me forever. There are a lot of really great scenes, a lot of scenes that I think were brutal, but in the best way. But one of the ones that will stick with me for a very long time is when he has to repledge himself to the high table and take a finger off.
Yeah, that was like, brutal, but in the best kind of way.
Oh, it was so good. It was so good, but I was not ready for it.
No, and I wasn't ready for how quick.
No.
I was expecting there to be a bit more of a build up or something to it, but he just did it, and I was like, oh, whoa, no,
I gotta do what I gotta do.
Wasn't ready for that.
Goes for it.
Yeah.
That was and I thought it was very symbolic to me of John Wick's character in terms of he knows exactly what has to be done to get where he needs to go. I didn't believe for a second that he was ever actually going to fulfill the mission of killing Winston.
Yeah.
But he knew what he needed to do to get back to Winston to be able to do whatever it was that he wanted to carry out. And I think that him so readily not only cutting off his finger, because I think that was kind of whatever, but the wedding ring going to that guy was... To me, it was just so perfect of what he represents in terms of he has been screwed over so many times and has lost so much and continues to feel like he just is always losing. He can't have that minute to just remember and relax and have any sort of semblance of a life. And handing that over was just...
Yeah, it was... I thought it worked very powerfully and I thought it worked extremely well.
Yeah, I think so too. And I just had a great time with this movie overall.
So did I.
I thoroughly enjoyed it.
So did I. Yeah. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm really looking forward to seeing it again and doing a rewatch.
I definitely want to watch it again. That's for sure. There's a lot in it. I definitely want to rewatch and kind of catch for a second time. There's so many other things we could mention about this movie because there's so much kick-ass choreography. There's so many great set pieces. Halle Berry, I think, does a fantastic job in this movie. And there's so many moving pieces that make this movie work the way that it does. But this would end up being like 3 hours if we actually were able to talk about all of it. Is there anything else you want to say before we wrap this up?
No, just it's a really great movie. Go make sure you see it again.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it already, go see it.
Sorry, we spoiled it.
Go see it, please. If you've seen it once and enjoyed it, please go see it again.
Yep.
Because I'm hoping this movie will make a lot of money and then we actually will get another one. That would be really, really great. Thank you guys for checking this review out and hanging out with us. All of our links are down in the description if you want to find us on social media and hang out with us there.
Yeah.
We have our Patreon link down below as well if you would like to donate to that and help us out. Those of you who do, thank you very, very much. You guys are the best. And with that, we will see you next time.
Thank you very much.